Hi you guys, today I'm showing you part 2 of my Megara Cosplay video. I found this dress at Goodwill for $7.99 and decided to upcycle it to make Megara. That's actually why I chose to do this character, because that was a pretty good deal. In this video I am showing you how I made the Megara dress, and I'm so excited to show you how I made it. Here I'm just pinning the dress in place, and I'm actually fitting it to a corset that I'm wearing. That is why I have a pin in the middle of the bust. It wasn't even attached to the corset though. You'll see a little bit later I ended up omitting the corset. Here I'm just drawing a line of kind of where I pinned the dress, and then I am sewing the dress along the line that I drew so that it's fitted to my body. And then here I'm doing my first try on. It fits pretty well, but I still wanted it to be just a little bit tighter. So I am going back in the bathroom and I'm just looking in the mirror and stuff. And I ended up pinning it a little bit more, and I ended up going back to my sewing machine, sewing it a little bit more so it was nice and fitted, because the character has a really small waist, as most Disney characters do. And so I just really wanted to embody that as much as I could. And I wasn't really worried about what the bottom looked like, because that was going to be covered by my sash. And I was actually planning on pinning the dress down to the corset. Here I'm just seeing what the sash would look like with some extra fabric that came with the dress. This is how I planned on wearing it. Again, I wanted to pin it to the corset so it had a nice sleek fit, but nonetheless I didn't end up doing that because it just didn't fit right in the end. Here what I'm doing is making the sash part that goes under her bust. So I'm simply just taking some very thin purple fabric, ironing it to kind of like pleat it a little bit, but then I just ended up stitching it right up against the bust part of the dress with a straight stitch. And this is actually really easy if you don't know how to sew. I definitely don't. I'm not a perfectionist. I just kind of wing it every single time. So you could definitely do this, but I just again used a straight stitch to make some runches, sewed right over the runches in the fabric, and then it was stuck to my dress. I left that extra fabric on because I didn't really know what I was going to do with it, so I ended up cutting it off. But here I am making basically the pattern for the sash piece that I plan on making out of warbla, and so I'm just kind of testing to see what it's going to look like. And once I got it to look how I wanted it to, I danced around a little bit, because that's my favorite thing to do when I'm dressed up, is just dance around. Then I put the pattern onto my warbla, traced it with a Sharpie, and cut out my warbla. Now yes, my bra is there, but listen, most of us wear bras, so please, I don't want to hear anything, okay? I'm a human being. So once I got the warbla piece, I just kind of heated it up with a heat gun, and then I wanted to make it look like similar to draped fabric. I wanted it to kind of just have like a fabric texture. One could argue that I could have just simply put the fabric onto the dress, but I like the silhouette that it gives the character's costume, so I really wanted to somehow create this over-exaggerated sash. And I just thought warbla would be good because I could mold it and make it look like fabric. This is my first time ever really using warbla too, so I was just like kind of winging it. I didn't get any videos of my warbla on my camera, but I got some on my Instagram, so go follow me over there for up-to-date updates when I'm working on projects, because then you'll get to see it live, and that's so fun. So this is where I was really just experimenting. I started painting my warbla with Mod Podge. I was going to glue the fabric to the warbla with Mod Podge, and so here that's what I'm doing. I'm just putting like a coat of Mod Podge on the warbla. And then here I'm taking care to press the fabric over all of the creases that I made with the warbla, because it kind of had a tendency to just sit over the creases instead of like really highlighting the creases, and then, you know, kind of defeated the whole purpose. So I really had to sit and, you know, work the fabric onto the warbla. But as you can see, I started getting those really dark purple spots, and so I kind of ignored it and I just kept going. And I wasn't really too worried about the dark spots because I thought that they would go away. I figured it was kind of just similar to like a wet paint. So I am wrapping my warbla piece, and I realized that I don't know if it's because I have glossy Mod Podge or if it's just because this is what would happen in general. The glue, if it comes through the fabric, it gets really dark and it does not go away. I'm gonna peel it off and try again. Second time's the charm. So once again, I peeled the fabric off of the warbla. The warbla did not lose its shape at all. I just really wanted to mention that. And then what I did differently to make the outcome a lot better this time was I actually ended up putting the fabric on while the Mod Podge was really wet. And I tried to touch the fabric as little as possible, because I noticed the more I touched it and messed with it, the more that the glue began to bleed through the fabric. And so I just kind of got the fabric on as quickly as I could, as nicely as I could. And then on the inside, I really just wanted to make sure that the fabric stayed on the inside, so I wasn't too worried about all the dark spots on the inside. I plan to try to paint over these dark spots because I still do have a few of them, and I'm gonna try to paint over them with similar colored paint, and I'll just test it on some of the fabric first, and if it looks bad, I'll just leave it. I won't be a perfectionist, but it definitely does have some dark spots on there, but nothing like it did the first time that I created the sash. So this actually ended up working out pretty well. If you weren't using such a thin fabric, this would actually probably look really nice. It's just, this is like a really sheer fabric, so this is all I had. Once I got the warbla piece created, I just put some extra fabric to hang down for the sash, put it on, and voila, that part was done. I just made these out of clay. I'm gonna bake them in the morning and then sand them and just paint them gold, and then I'll have 2 buttons for my straps and 1 for my little crossbody thing. Okay, so then I created these little buttons. Here I'm just filing all of the rough bits down with a nail drill because that's all I have. I just have a nail drill, and so it worked out really well. It just took a little while. But yeah, I ended up coming out with these. I wish I would have made the swirls a little bit bigger and maybe like deeper, but nonetheless, I ended up liking them once I was finished. I just painted them with like a goldish yellow color that I had. And then I ended up having to do about 2 or 3 coats of this yellow paint. But once the yellow paint was dry, I went back in with a teeny tiny brush and painted brown detailing inside of the swirls on the buttons. That way they were nicer and more detailed, and you could actually see what the heck was going on. I also went back over the buttons with like a gold sheen paint that I had. It's actually called Gold Interference. I don't know what it is, but it just kind of like offers this gold shimmer. It's not like a paint, it's almost like a top coat, but I ended up just going over the buttons with that, and it gave them a really pretty golden effect. And then I just glued my buttons right onto my costume. The dress came with these weird slidable snowflake looking things, so I just glued the buttons on there. That way, if I wanted to slide the buttons, I could. I don't know, I just felt like it added a nice little elevated touch to my costume. So I glued the buttons on top of those. I added the button on my sash, and I was done with my dress. Now I'm not going to show the whole dress in this video because I plan to do a Megara transformation cosplay video, but here are the details of the dress, and I hope you enjoyed, and I will see you in my next video. Bye!